The hook. The night was silent, except for the crackle of broken fires still burning on the battlefield. The war was over, but the ground was full of smoke, twisted metal, and the smell of blood. A human soldier lay among the ruins, his body weak, his breath heavy, his armor torn. His name was Daniel, and he was the last survivor of his unit. Every step he tried to take was pain. His leg was bleeding, and his arm could barely move. But he did not stop. He pulled himself forward, crawling across the black dirt. His eyes burned with fire, not from anger, but from a promise he made to himself. I will not die here. The stars above were strange, the sky not like Earth. This planet was alien, dangerous, and full of enemies. But Daniel refused to surrender. He dragged his body to the shadow of a broken wall, pressing his back against the stone. His heart pounded, his throat dry, but his spirit refused to break. The human race had fought too hard, and he would not let their hope end with him. Then he heard it, a sound behind him, a low laugh, sharp like a blade. Daniel turned his head slowly, every muscle screaming in pain. From the darkness, a tall figure stepped forward. It was a woman, but not human. Her skin was pale silver, her eyes glowing like fire. Armor of black steel covered her, and strange tattoos shone across her arms. She was from the warrior race that had destroyed his team. To them, humans were weak, small, and laughable. She looked at him and laughed again, shaking her head. Is this what your kind sends to fight us? Broken, crawling, pathetic, she said, her voice cold but almost amused. Daniel did not answer. He only tightened his grip on the broken blade in his hand. Even if he could not win, he would not bow. She noticed this, and her smile grew sharper. You can barely breathe, and still you dare to hold a weapon? Foolish human, she said. She stepped closer, towering over him, her shadow falling across his broken body. Her people were known for cruelty, for never showing mercy. One strike from her could end his life in a moment. Daniel spat blood from his mouth and whispered, If I fall fighting. His words were weak, but his eyes were strong. The alien woman tilted her head, her amusement turning into curiosity. No one had ever looked at her like that before. Every other enemy had begged, cried, or tried to run. But this human, broken and dying, looked straight into her eyes without fear. For a moment, her laughter faded, replaced by something she did not understand. Strange creature, she muttered, almost to herself. She could kill him now, end his suffering, prove her strength. But something stopped her hand. Instead, she crouched down to his level, her glowing eyes studying him like a puzzle. Why do you fight? You are finished. You have nothing, she asked. Daniel's voice was quiet, but steady. I fight because giving up means I was never alive. The words struck her deeper than she expected. She had seen warriors fight for honor, for power, for pride, but never had she heard someone fight for the meaning of simply living. She laughed again, but this time it was softer, uncertain. You are either very brave or very foolish, she said. Daniel gave the faintest smile, though his lips were cracked and bleeding. Maybe both, he whispered. The alien woman stood, her eyes still fixed on him. She should have walked away, left him to die. But her feet did not move. She did not understand why this fragile, broken soldier made her hesitate. He was weak, yet there was strength in him that even her strongest warriors did not carry. For the first time in her life, she did not know what to do. She turned her head, looking at the stars above, then back at him. Something about this human's spirit burned brighter than the battlefield around them. Daniel leaned back against the wall, his vision blurring. He thought this was the end, that his story was over. But as the alien warrior stood before him, watching him closely, he felt a strange twist of fate. Maybe this was not the end, but the beginning. The battlefield was silent once again, except for her quiet laughter. A laughter that would one day change into something else. But for now, it was the sound of two enemies staring at each other. One broken, one powerful, yet both connected by something they could not name. And so the story began. Strange encounters. The morning sun rose over the alien land, turning the sky into shades of red and gold. Daniel opened his eyes slowly, his body heavy, his wounds still burning. He was alive, but he knew it was not because of luck. Someone had carried him from the battlefield, someone strong enough to lift his broken body. When his vision cleared, he saw her. The alien warrior woman sat near a fire, her silver skin glowing in the light, her eyes sharp. She was sharpening her blade, the sound of steel against stone cutting through the silence. Daniel felt his heart tighten, for he remembered her laugh, her mocking words. Yet, she had not killed him. Instead, she had taken him away from death. "Awake, little soldier," she asked without turning, her voice cold but calm. Daniel tried to move, but chains were tied around his wrists. His weapons were gone, his freedom stolen. He was not a guest. He was a prisoner. She finally turned to face him, her lips curved in a faint smile. "You are mine now, a weak human with strange courage. I will keep you alive for now." Her words were like ice, but her eyes studied him with something more than cruelty. Daniel met her gaze, refusing to look away. "If you want me alive, then treat me like more than a trophy," he said. She tilted her head, amused. "You still dare to speak boldly? Interesting." She stood, tall and strong, and motioned toward the camp beyond the fire. Daniel followed her eyes and saw her people, the alien clan, her tribe of warriors. They were huge, armored, and fierce, their laughter filling the air. When they saw Daniel chained, they burst into cruel laughter, pointing and mocking. To them, "You are nothing more than a joke," she said simply. Daniel's chest burned with anger, but he stayed silent. He had learned that silence sometimes carried more power than words. The tribe surrounded him, testing him like a strange animal. One warrior kicked dirt at him, another pulled at his broken armor. They laughed louder, waiting for him to break. But Daniel only stood tall, his eyes steady, his voice quiet. "I will not bow," he whispered. The alien warriors paused, their laughter softening into confusion. They were used to fear, to screams, but this human showed none. The woman watched him closely, her sharp eyes narrowing. For the second time since she met him, she felt a flicker of respect, but she did not let it show. Instead, she walked up to him and spoke loudly so all could hear. "This human is weak, yet he has something I have not seen before." The tribe laughed again, shouting insults, but she silenced them with one raise of her hand, her eyes never leaving Daniel's face. She leaned close and whispered, so only he could hear, "You confuse me, human. You should fear me, hate me, beg me, but you do none of these things." Daniel whispered back, his voice low but steady, "I only live by one rule, never surrender." Her heart stirred, though she did not understand why. Was it madness? Was it strength? Whatever it was, it pulled at her, breaking the wall she always kept inside. That night, Daniel sat by the fire with chains still around his hands. The tribe continued to laugh at him, mocking his small frame, his broken body. But he did not look at them. His eyes were on the stars above. He thought of Earth, of home, of everything humanity had lost. A deep loneliness filled him, but he did not let it show. The alien woman walked over, standing in front of him, her shadow blocking the firelight. "You look at the stars like they belong to you," she said almost softly. Daniel raised his eyes to hers. "They belong to anyone brave enough to reach for them," he replied. For a moment, she was silent. The fire crackled, the warriors laughed, but all she heard was his voice. Her lips curved into a small laugh, not mocking this time, but thoughtful. "You are strange, Daniel the human. Perhaps too strange to die just yet," she said. And with that, she turned and walked away, her silver hair shining under the alien sky. Daniel leaned back, his body still aching. He did not know what tomorrow would bring. More pain, more laughter, or death. But he felt something shift in the air. This woman, this enemy, did not see him as just a prisoner anymore. And though she still laughed at him, something told him that her laughter was beginning to change. For the first time since the battle, Daniel felt a spark of hope. Not hope of freedom, not yet, but hope that his story was far from over. Unexpected bonds. The alien camp was alive with noise, firelight, and cruel laughter. Daniel sat in chains near the edge, his body weak but his eyes steady. Days had passed since the battle, yet still he lived, not because they spared him, but because of her, the silver-skinned warrior woman who had first mocked him, then claimed him as her prisoner. To the tribe, Daniel was a joke, a strange creature who could not fight like them. They called him fragile bones and weak blood, their laughter following him wherever he walked. But he did not answer their insults. He kept quiet, watching, learning, waiting. One morning, while the tribe prepared weapons for the next raid, Daniel saw something small yet important. Their forge fire was dying, the heat too low to shape the metal. The warriors cursed and shouted, blaming each other, but no one fixed it. Daniel spoke, his voice calm. "Your fire is choking. The air cannot reach it." The nearest warrior turned, eyes glowing with anger. "You dare speak? Be silent, human." But Daniel ignored the insult. He dragged himself closer, using a stick to move the stones, opening space for air. The flames roared higher, burning brighter, the forge alive again. The warriors froze, staring. The human had solved a problem none of them had noticed. Murmurs spread through the camp, half with anger, half with uneasy respect. She was watching too, the warrior woman. Her eyes narrowed as she studied him. "You fix fire like a craftsman," she said slowly. Daniel gave a faint smile. "On Earth, even the smallest fire kept us alive. You learn to respect it." For the first time, she did not laugh. Instead, she gave a small nod, almost hidden, before walking away. That night, something worse came. Wild beasts from the dark forest crept into the camp, their eyes glowing red, their teeth sharp. The tribe roared into battle, weapons clashing, fire flashing. But in the chaos, one beast slipped through, heading straight for the children of the clan. Daniel saw it, and without thinking, he moved. His chains rattled, but he ran anyway, grabbing a broken spear from the ground. He stood between the beast and the children. The monster lunged, its claws slicing the air. Daniel drove the spear forward, the point striking true. Pain tore through his body as he fell. But the beast collapsed too, dead at his feet. The children screamed, but they were alive. The tribe turned, their eyes wide, their laughter gone. The weak human had risked his life to protect the little ones. The warriors muttered among themselves. "Strange," one said. "Why would he fight for those not his own?" asked another. They had seen courage before, but not like this, not from one so broken. The woman approached, her steps slow, her eyes locked on him. Daniel was bleeding again, his breath heavy, but he stood tall, the broken spear still in his hand. "You could have run. You could have hidden," she said quietly. Daniel's answer was simple. Children should never pay for the wars of adults. Her chest tightened at his words, something stirring deep inside her. No one in her tribe spoke of such things, no one cared. But this human, fragile, weak, mocked, carried a heart stronger than any blade. From that day, something changed. The tribe still laughed, but less often. Some even watched him with quiet respect, though they did not say it aloud. He began helping with small tasks, fixing broken tools, showing better ways to bind wounds. He did not ask for thanks, he only worked. Slowly, the camp stopped seeing him as only a prisoner. She watched him the most, always from the shadows. Her thoughts twisted in ways she could not control. This man was not like the warriors she had known, not like the arrogant males of her clan. He was different, weak in body, but strong in spirit. And though she tried to keep laughing at him, her laughter no longer sounded the same. One evening, as the stars spread across the sky, she sat near the fire across from him. Her voice was softer than before when she asked, "Why do you not hate us? We killed your people, destroyed your home, and chained you like a beast." Daniel looked into the flames before answering. "Hate is easy, but if I live with only hate, then I am already dead." Her eyes widened slightly. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one dared. For the first time, she felt the ground under her feet shift, as if the world she knew was no longer the same. She laughed then, but it was not cruel, not sharp. It was quiet, uncertain, almost human. Daniel looked up, his tired eyes meeting hers. And though nothing was said, both of them felt it, a bond forming, strange and unexpected. That night, while the camp slept, the alien warrior woman stood alone, looking at the stars. Her mind was filled with questions she could not answer. Why had she not killed him? Why did his words echo in her heart? And why did his courage feel stronger than all the warriors of her tribe combined? She did not know the answer yet, but she knew one thing. This human was no longer just a prisoner. He was something else, something that would change her life forever. From laughter to love, the days turned into weeks, and Daniel was no longer only the weak human in the tribe. He still wore chains at night, but during the day, he worked beside them. He fixed what they broke, he healed what they ignored, and he spoke with a calm voice that unsettled even the fiercest warriors. The alien woman watched him more than anyone. At first, she had laughed at his strange habits, the way he closed his eyes and whispered to himself before sleep, the way he hummed low songs while working, the way he stared at the stars as if they belonged to him. But soon, her laughter lost its edge. It was no longer cruel, no longer sharp. It was lighter, curious, almost warm. One evening, the camp prepared for a hunt. The warriors sharpened their blades and painted their faces. But Daniel sat quietly, repairing a broken strap of leather with careful hands. She approached him, standing tall, her arms crossed. "Human, why do you spend hours on small things?" "It is useless work," she said. Daniel looked up at her, his tired eyes steady. "Small things keep the bigger things alive," he answered simply. She frowned, confused, but something in her heart stirred. She almost smiled, though she hid it behind another laugh. The hunt that night was dangerous. The beasts of the dark forest were fast and brutal. One of her warriors was struck down, his leg torn, his body bleeding. The others roared, ready to leave him behind. Weakness was not forgiven in their tribe. But Daniel did not wait. He ran to the fallen warrior, tore his own shirt, and bound the wound tight. He dragged the larger man back, step by painful step. The warrior spat at him, ashamed to be saved by a human. But Daniel said nothing, only worked until the bleeding stopped. The woman saw everything, her chest tightening with emotions she had never felt before. Here was a man who saved even those who mocked him, a man who carried kindness as if it were a weapon. When she walked to him later, her voice was softer. "You saved one who would see you dead." "Why?" Daniel's answer was quiet, but firm. "Life is life. It is not mine to throw away." For the first time, she had no reply. Her laughter did not come. Instead, silence stretched between them, heavy with something unspoken. That night, she found herself sitting by the fire across from him. The tribe sang war songs, their voices loud. But she only heard his quiet and steady as he hummed an old earth tune. "What is that sound?" she asked at last. Daniel's eyes lifted to hers, a faint smile touching his lips. "It is a song, something humans use to remember home." "Home," she repeated as if testing the word. "What do you remember?" Daniel's gaze softened. "My mother's garden, my brother's laughter, the air after rain." The images were simple, fragile, but they carried a weight she had never known. She laughed then, but it was not mockery. It was soft, uncertain, almost shy. "You fight wars, and yet you remember flowers?" she teased. Daniel's smile grew. "That is why we fight, to protect the small things." Her chest ached, though she did not understand why. Her people fought only for honor, for blood, for victory. But this man fought for something invisible, yet stronger than steel. As the nights passed, she began to seek his company, not as a guard, not as a captor, but as something else. She asked him questions about Earth, about his people, about love. The word confused her. "In my tribe, love is weakness. It blinds, it softens the blade," she said. Daniel shook his head, gently. Love is not weakness. It is what gives strength. Without it, we are only shadows. Her heart beat faster at his words, though she told herself it was nothing. She laughed again, but her laughter trembled. You are dangerous, human. Not with your body, but with your words. Daniel met her eyes and whispered, words can cut deeper than swords. One night, while the moon cast silver light across the camp, she sat closer to him than ever before. Their shoulders almost touched, their shadows mixing on the ground. The tribe laughed in the distance, but around them was silence. She studied his face, the scars, the tired eyes, the stubborn jaw. He was not beautiful by her people's standards, but something about him pulled her closer, something she could not resist. You are not like any warrior I have known, she said softly. Daniel looked at her, his voice steady. And you are not like any enemy I have known. Their eyes met, and in that moment there was no tribe, no chains, no war. Only two souls bound by something new, something dangerous. Her laughter came again, but it was soft, gentle, almost human, and for the first time, Daniel laughed with her, not as prisoner and captor, not as human and alien, but as two hearts slowly finding each other in the middle of war. The great conflict. The camp was restless, the fire burning brighter than usual. Warriors shouted, preparing for another raid, sharpening their blades and painting their faces with war marks. But in the center of the noise stood Daniel, his chains lighter now, his presence no longer ignored. Some warriors still mocked him. Others watched him with quiet suspicion. And one watched him with eyes she could no longer hide. The silver-skinned warrior woman. Their bond had grown in secret. It was not spoken aloud, not admitted even to themselves. But every glance, every shared silence by the fire, carried more than words. And secrets never stay hidden forever. That night, as Daniel worked on repairing a broken weapon strap, two warriors noticed the way she stood near him. Too close, too protective. One of them sneered. Our commander laughs softer now. She watches the human more than her own tribe. The other spat on the ground. She is falling into weakness. The human poisons her heart. They carried their whispers to the elders. And before dawn, the entire tribe was buzzing with rage. The next morning, Daniel was dragged into the center of the camp. Chains heavy, arms pulled, the warriors circling him with cruel smiles. The woman stood at the edge, her face like stone, but inside her chest thundered with fear. The elders spoke with voices like iron. This human has cursed our blood. He has twisted one of our strongest. He must die. The tribe roared their agreement, slamming weapons against shields, their voices rising like thunder. Daniel looked around, his body weak, but his eyes unbroken. He had faced death before, but this time it was different. This time, death would mean more than the end of his life. It would mean the end of whatever fragile bond had begun between him and her. The woman stepped forward, her voice cutting through the noise. No, he's mine. His life belongs to me. The crowd hissed and growled, anger spilling like fire. One elder snarled, Do you protect him, warrior? Have you forgotten who you are? She raised her chin, her glowing eyes unflinching. I have not forgotten, but I will not let you kill him. Gasps echoed across the camp. It was unthinkable, a commander standing against her own people for a human. The warriors shouted, their voices filled with betrayal. She has fallen. She is no longer one of us. Kill the human. And if she resists, kill her too. The air was thick with rage. Daniel's heart clenched as he watched. He wanted to speak, to stop her from risking everything, but his voice caught in his throat. This was her choice, her fight. The tribe surged forward, blades flashing. The woman moved like lightning, her sword drawn, her eyes burning with fury. She cut through the first warrior, sending him crashing to the ground. Another rushed at her, but she struck him aside, her voice echoing. If you want his life, you must take mine first. Daniel stared, shock and fear crashing through him. She was fighting her own blood, her own people, not for honor, not for glory. But for him, the battle was chaos. Warriors surrounded her, their blades clashing against hers. Daniel struggled in his chains, trying to move, trying to help. One warrior raised a weapon to strike him down. But before the blow could fall, she was there, her blade cutting the attacker aside. Her eyes met Daniel's for a brief second, filled with fire and something deeper. "I will not let them touch you," she whispered. The fight raged until the ground was stained with blood. But even she could not face them all. The tribe was too many, their anger too strong. Her arms shook, her body bled, yet she did not fall. Daniel shouted, his voice breaking through the roar. "Stop! Don't die for me!" But she only laughed, her voice wild and fierce. "I laughed at you once, human, but now I fight because of you." The tribe froze for a heartbeat, stunned by her words. Her confession was clear, undeniable. This was no longer a prisoner and captor. This was love. The elders spat with rage. "Then you're no longer our blood. You are dead to us." The tribe roared again, surging forward. The woman grabbed Daniel, cutting his chains with one strike of her blade. "Run," she hissed. Daniel staggered, refusing to leave her side. "I won't leave you." Her eyes burned as she pushed him forward. "Then fight with me." And so, side by side, they fled into the forest. The camp behind them a storm of fury. Their enemies now not just beasts or fate, but her own people. They ran until the fire of the camp was far away, their breaths ragged, their bodies torn. Finally, they collapsed against a fallen tree, the night air cold, the stars watching. For a moment, silence returned, only the sound of their hearts beating as one. Daniel looked at her, his voice raw. "You gave up everything for me." She met his eyes, her laughter soft this time, fragile, almost broken. "I laughed first, but I never thought I would love later." Her hand touched her wound, her strength fading. But her eyes still burned with fire. And Daniel knew then, their fight was only beginning. Love against all odds. The forest was endless, dark and alive with strange sounds. Daniel and the alien woman moved through the shadows, their bodies aching, their breaths heavy. Behind them, the tribe still hunted, their war cries sometimes echoing in the distance. They were no longer soldier and prisoner, no longer captor and captive. They were outcasts, bound together by choice. The woman's wounds slowed her steps, her silver skin marked with blood. Daniel noticed every wince, every stumble. He reached to steady her, but she pulled away, pride flashing in her eyes. "I'm not weak," she said, her voice sharp. Daniel gave a faint smile. Even the strongest need someone sometimes. She turned her head, hiding her expression. For the first time, she felt what she never admitted before. She needed him. They found shelter inside the hollow of a giant tree. The air was cold, the ground damp, but it was hidden from hunters. Daniel gathered broken branches, struggling to start a fire with trembling hands. His body ached, his own wounds screaming. But when the fire finally caught, warmth spread through the hollow. She sat close, her eyes glowing in the flicker of the flames. "You are stubborn," she said softly. Daniel chuckled weakly. "So, I've been told." For a long while, silence filled the air. Not the silence of enemies, but the silence of two hearts unsure of words. She studied his face, the lines of exhaustion, the fire in his eyes that refused to die. Her chest tightened, a strange warmth blooming. "Why do you not hate me?" she asked suddenly, her voice low. Daniel looked into the fire, then at her. "You saved me when you could have killed me. You fought for me when you could have left me. How could I hate you?" Her breath caught, her pride faltered. No one in her tribe had ever spoken to her this way. No one had ever seen her as more than a warrior, more than a weapon. Yet this human, broken and fragile, looked at her as if she was more than steel. Her lips curved into a small, quiet laugh. "Foolish human, you are dangerous," she whispered. But this time her words carried no threat, only trembling truth. The days that followed were a blur of survival. They hunted together, shared scraps of food, watched the stars through the branches. The hunters came close many times, their shadows crossing through the forest. But together, Daniel and the woman always escaped. She fought with her blade, fierce and unstoppable. He fought with his mind, clever traps, and quick thinking saving them more than once. Together, they were stronger than either alone. One night, as rain poured heavy, Daniel covered her with his torn cloak. She frowned, confused. "You are soaked, human. Why do you give this to me?" Daniel smiled softly. "Because you matter." Her heart trembled at those words. No one had ever said them to her before. As the days turned to weeks, their bond grew deeper. She no longer laughed at him with cruelty. Her laughter now was soft, rare, and precious. And Daniel began to laugh too, not the hollow laugh of survival, but the warm laugh of two souls finding each other in the darkest places. One evening, when the sky burned red with sunset, they sat side by side on a fallen log. The forest was quiet, the hunters far behind. Daniel looked at her, his voice steady. "I never thought I would find love here, in the middle of war." Her silver eyes met his, glowing with something more than fire. "I never thought I would love at all," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. Her hand brushed his, not by accident but by choice. And though no words followed, their silence carried everything. But peace never lasted. The tribe had not forgotten, and their shadows still hunted. One night, the sound of horns cut through the forest. They were close, too close. Daniel grabbed her hand, pulling her into the dark. Their breaths sharp, their bodies pressed against the cold bark of a tree as warriors passed. She leaned close, her lips near his ear, whispering, "They will not stop. They will chase us until we are dead." Daniel's eyes burned as he whispered back, "Then we live for every moment they cannot take from us." Her heart pounded at his words, not from fear, but from something stronger, hope. Later, as the moon rose high, they rested again, their bodies tired, but their spirits unbroken. She lay close to him, her head against his shoulder, something she never imagined she would do. Her voice was quiet, almost human. "I laughed first, Daniel, but now I laugh because of you." Daniel's hand brushed hers, his voice a whisper. "And I love you, even against all odds." In that moment, hunted, broken, far from any home, they found something greater than victory. They found each other, and no blade, no tribe, no war could take that away. The revelation. The forest had grown quiet. No war horns, no hunters, no footsteps in the shadows. Only the sound of wind moving through the trees and the soft crackle of fire. Weeks had passed since they fled the tribe. Daniel and the silver-skinned warrior lived hidden in the wilderness. They were no longer hunter and prey, no longer captive and captor. They were two hearts bound against the world. Their wounds had healed, though the scars remained. But to Daniel, the scars were not marks of pain. They were proof that they had survived together. At night, they sat by the fire, their shoulders touching. She laughed softly at his strange earth stories. He smiled at her questions about love, about home, about the sky. The woman who once mocked him now leaned against him. The warrior who once called him weak now called him hers. One evening, as the moon rose high and silver light touched the forest, she sat quietly across from the fire, her eyes thoughtful, her hands resting on her stomach. Daniel noticed the stillness in her, the way her laughter did not come as quickly. "What troubles you?" he asked softly. Her silver eyes lifted to his, glowing in the firelight. "I carry something I never thought possible," she said. Daniel's heart quickened, his breath catching. Her voice was steady, yet trembling at the edges. "Daniel, I carry your child." The fire seemed to burn brighter, the world growing still around them. For a moment, he could not speak, his heart heavy with shock, awe, fear, and joy. "A child?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. She nodded slowly, her lips trembling. "Yes, our child." Silence filled the hollow for a long while. Daniel's mind spun, 1,000 thoughts colliding. How could a human and an alien create life? What kind of world would their child be born into? Would they be hunted forever? Would their child be safe? Yet in the storm of doubts, one truth burned brighter than fear. This was proof that love could cross blood, race, and war. Proof that they were more than enemies, more than survivors. They were family. He reached for her hand, his voice breaking with emotion. You laughed first, you mocked me, you hated me. But now, you carry our future. Tears stung his eyes, though he tried to hide them. She gave a soft laugh, fragile yet filled with warmth. Strange, isn't it? I who never believed in love, now carry the greatest part of it. The days that followed carried a new weight. Daniel became more protective, gathering food, building stronger shelter. Every glance at her reminded him of the life growing inside her. Every sound of hunters in the distance made his heart tighten with fear. Yet she, even with child, did not lose her fire. She trained, she sharpened her blade, she stood guard at night. I will not let them touch you, or our child, she swore, her eyes fierce. Daniel smiled faintly. Then we will protect each other, always. But whispers of fate could not be silenced. One night, the tribe returned, their horns echoing through the trees. The hunters had found their trail again. The woman's hand tightened around Daniel's. They will never stop, she said, her voice steady. Daniel met her gaze, his eyes burning. Then let them come. We fight not just for us now, but for what we've created. Side by side, they stood as the shadows of warriors filled the forest. And though outnumbered, though hunted, they were not afraid. Because this time, they were not fighting only to survive. They were fighting for the child who carried both their worlds inside. The battle was fierce, blades flashing, fire spreading through the trees. Daniel fought with every ounce of strength. The woman moved like a storm, her sword cutting through the darkness. Together, they stood unbroken. And when the hunters finally fell back, too many wounded, too many lost, the tribe turned and fled into the night, their cries fading into silence, leaving only the crackle of dying flames. Exhausted, bleeding, but alive, Daniel and the woman collapsed together. She pressed her forehead against his, her breath trembling. We are no longer theirs, she whispered. We are only ours. Months later, under a sky filled with stars, the cries of a newborn echoed softly through the forest. A child, small and fragile, with human eyes and alien markings on their skin. Daniel held the baby close, his heart swelling with emotion he could not describe. The woman looked on, her lips trembling with laughter and tears. I laughed first, Daniel, but now I laugh because of the life we made. Daniel kissed her forehead, whispering, Our child is proof that love is stronger than war. The baby's cries softened, replaced by calm, as if the stars themselves listened. And so their story ended not in death, not in defeat, but in a beginning, a new life, born from two worlds that once hated each other. A life that carried hope, love, and the future of both races. The warrior who once mocked the human now held his heart. The human who once crawled through blood now held his family. And the child they carried was the bridge between stars.